She was living in a single room with 3 other individuals. One of them was a male, and the other 2, well, the other 2 were females.
All right, let's get this show started. Ladies and gentlemen, the king, bro. The king, dude. That's a blast from the past.
Oh, my gosh,
I
man.
don't know if I could introduce him any other way.
Yeah.
The king, our prom king, 2011?
Yeah, 2011, man. It seems like a whole lifetime ago.
And let me roll out the carpet even a little bit more. He's a retired, or not retired, but former U.S. U.S. Army soldier.
Yep.
A former teacher of the high school we used to go to.
Yep, Pathfinder.
And now he's on the front lines of the recreational and medical marijuana industry.
Yeah,
man.
absolutely, man.
Big moves, dude.
Absolutely.
Jake Moriarty, by the way.
Hey, guys, what's going on? Good to be on the podcast, finally.
For those of you who don't know. No, I'm so stoked, man. I can't tell you how often you come up in conversation here and there, and I always think to myself, well, that's a guy who I wish I spent more time with. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Because I mean, you were even doing like a beard oil. You had a beard oil company at one point.
I did, yeah. I'm definitely, since a very young age, I've always found myself drawn sort of to entrepreneurship.
Dude, I know.
And
dude, anybody who knows Jake knows that hands down is like the first thing. It's like, is he a millionaire yet? Because like
not yet.
Not yet. Well, wait, hey, we're all working on it, right?
Definitely.
That was the one thing I remember most about you too. You were so gung ho about getting stuff done. I mean, you had great, like a great family foundation of that too, because of your relatives, like your grandfather and so on, right? Who is it that works for Sanderson McLeod?
So it is my grandfather and my
he
mom's
owns
side.
it.
So he was the former CEO of the company for many, many years. I think over 25.
I forget how. I know somebody who works there as a manager, but tell them what Sanderson McLeod does, because I don't think that place gets enough recognition.
No, definitely. And people drive past it like all the time going through Palmer. So what Sanderson McLeod is a twisted wire brush company, and what makes it unique to
you can pull this in
the general business of the whole country is they create mascara brushes, and they are the only person that are allowed to do so for the Z-wired brush design, which my grandfather helped hold the patent for that.
Okay.
So yeah, they kind of cornered the market, and one day he did a little sales pitch, and they were like, "Oh, it's a small company, just see how you do." And come to find out, that small company was L'Oreal, and they bought out $1 billion worth of mascara brushes. And long
something
story
as
short,
simple as that. Something as simple as a little twisted wire to hold brush bristles together.
Oh, and
nuts.
And the story is just absolutely inspirational. Now, my grandfather is the son of an immigrant. It was my great grandfather who came over from Italy.
Italian? Yeah.
Yep. They came from Italy and many other places. I'm a mutt of European cultures, but
aren't we all?
Yeah,
in a way, if you're like European, it's like, okay, you're probably a little bit of everything.
A little bit of everything.
Because it's like hard for like one. You know what I mean? They're all right next to each other.
Yeah. I mean, even people who live there, it's like going from Mass to Connecticut. You know what I mean? It's not far, but real hardworking, lower middle class, used to smoke cigarettes, and he couldn't afford to buy cigarettes, so he would smoke other people's butts. And to go from that lifestyle of hardcore perseverance to actually living a pretty comfortable middle class lifestyle,
probably upper middle class.
Yeah,
or
definitely
not lower, upper class.
He is he did a lot better before the 2008 stock crash. That was definitely something that definitely hit a lot of people very hard, him included. Yeah, but no, and so that's having that inspiration is just kind of like big shoes to fill. You know what I mean?
So what's Jake Moriarty doing these days?
So now I work at New England Treatment Access, which is the
You don't know do you work for NETA?
I do.
That is NETA.
Yep.
Okay.
It's the longer abbreviation.
Dummies like me recognize it as NETA. It's the weed place.
That's basically how people know it,
man.
That
is far more professional and far more, a lot more thinking going into it than most people probably recognize.
It is a lot, and it was a lot more than what I anticipated definitely going into it. Now, mind you, I've been there at this point for almost 4.5 years now. It's been a long time coming. When I first joined, I started off as what's called a patient service associate, or a Budtender, is what most people know.
Budtender.
Yeah, that's what most people know it as.
That.
Keeping it cool for my peeps that know there.
You gotta keep it fun, man.
Yeah, and it's
because I bet you a lot of people's experience with those stores was always very like, like you're pulling at your collar, because you walk in and there's these different levels of security you're not used to when you're going into a retail store. You know what I mean? Like when you go in to get enough alcohol to kill you and your family, nobody really cares.
No.
How can I help you, sir? Okay, is that gonna be all? He's buying like 10 gallons of vodka. Like that'll be all. No questions asked. You go into the weed store, they click your thing, they check your ID. some guy, there's police everywhere.
Definitely.
It's definitely a different experience.
Well, and the thing that's definitely, makes it that much more, there's a heavily regulated industry full of
Big
compliance. And in Massachusetts, it's actually more unique than some of the other states that have legalized, because we have an organization called the Cannabis Control Commission, or the CCC, and they're our overseeing body. So they set the rules that we have to follow, and if we don't, we could get shut down at any point.
Wow.
Yeah, so definitely heavy.
A little uptight. It's uptight.
A little uptight, for it being
on the administrative end, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Are you in cahoots, or do you know any of the people in administration for the company? Like,
yeah,
I'm sure you work pretty close. I don't know anybody, by the way, who's been on the news more than this guy. I feel like every 3 months there's an article or like a news bit on Jake with either Jake Moriarty in it or on Jake Moriarty.
Yeah, it's I've been very fortunate in my life to have that exposure, and I feel that even without wanting to, part of being a veteran and also being in this extremely new, very taboo industry, I think that it's important to kind of represent yourself the best way you can. I'm a regular guy just like you, and I work and I go home. I have a 2-bedroom apartment. I got a couple cats and a girlfriend at home. Shout out to them at the house. But it's definitely crazy, man. I was interviewed by NBC's Nightly News, High Times, the Boston Globe. It's amazing that in such a short period of time I could accomplish.
Yeah, because that was a really big deal. When NETA moved into town, it was like, when recreational marijuana became legal, finally. Again, this goes back to talking about the alcohol. It's like, why did it take so long? Were you involved actually in it prior to it being recreational?
Yes. So I didn't have anything to do in the play with the medical law. We were still in high school at the time while it passed. But when I had gotten to NETA and I started, it was a very entry-level position, but there might have only been 20 people I was working with overall in the building.
Who owns it? Is it like a franchise or just one company?
It's tricky. Building. So it started off by a man named David Kessler. Now, David Kessler, he is a very awesome philanthropic guy who lives in the Boston area, who his father made it really big. There's a report on Fox News. It's called the Kessler Report, and it has to do with stocks, and it's on Fox Business. So it's definitely financial. His father was successful, and he made a lot of money through his father. So he wanted to start a medical company because a close family member of his was really struggling and found relief from cannabis, and he figured I had the financial.
As so many people have found,
and he
over years and years, and the government's still not totally about it. That's so crazy.
Yeah, and especially now, you have more than half the states have some sort of marijuana legalization,
whether medical
decriminalization, full rec, whatever. Even CBD products. So you could get CBD products.
CBD products are weirdly everywhere. You go to a gas station and they're like, "Oh, we got CBD cookies." And
I always
are they though?
I always tell people CBD itself is the same compound whether you get CBD in a cannabis store or at a gas station. But here's the problem. There's a little industry term that we like to say is we say good friends don't let friends buy CBD from gas stations.
Yes, seriously.
It's because without regulation, they could label it as CBD all they want to and absolutely put zero cannabinoids inside, which effectively does nothing.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely plenty of examples of where the quality of your product will depend on the location you get it. You know what I mean? You're not going to get the same service at, say, a gas station as you might a restaurant. You know what I mean? If you're looking, for food or something. I don't know.
100%. And that's I'm glad that you touched up upon that, because part of what I do at the company, I am a trainer. So I have trained over 150 what's called RMD agents.
Yeah. How soon did you get in on that? How many people? So you knew about NETA coming to town before it was in town, I'm assuming, right?
My father was one of the first medical patients in the state. Before they were even able to sell product, he went to the sign up to be one of the first patients to buy when they went medical.
Wow.
So that's really cool. And
you just jumped right in.
Yeah.
Jackknifed.
Yeah. Well, I got home from the Army, and luckily I was lucky enough to live with my grandparents in Munson. And, I'm sitting there, and the first night I came back, my dad had a little fire, and, we smoked a couple joints and hung out and had a good time. And he was like, "Well, now that you're back, what do you want to do? Have you thought about it?" And at the time I really didn't, and it sounds silly, but at the time I was like, "Well, I just want to work with weed, you know?
Yeah.
And
well, it's such a taboo thing. It's like, oh, of course you want to work. Like everybody who likes smoking weed wants to work with weed, but you seem like you had a lot more ambition, a lot more understanding of of weed itself, because you actually put forth the effort to kind of pursue that. You know what I mean?
Definitely. It's a big deal.
It's one thing just wanting to smoke it and being around it so you could get more of it. And it's another wanting to know more about it and how to distribute it to people who actually need it. You know
yes.
what I mean?
For somebody who is actively in the cannabis industry pretty much every single day of his life, I could tell you I probably smoke less weed than the average stoner on the market because I find that time is so limited. I find myself focusing, whether I'm at work or outside of work, what could I do better? Because the competition's not stopping. We have dispensaries popping up at every point in the state, and I love like a lot of the products that are out there, but I had to ask myself what makes cannabis, what makes the NETA experience, I should say, different than other dispensaries across the whole country, and that's customer service.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I kind of do like it. It's quick. I've been in there a couple times. It's quick, You come in, you get a menu, but they're all about helping you. The only problem is it's just so exclusive. So I've never had a problem. Like, it's always so nice going in there. People are really, like you said, just great at explaining what they have, because like to dummies like most of us, the technology's different. The strains are different. I mean, there's a lot of science that goes into this. That's not just stoner talk or just, you know what I mean?
Correct,
There's a lot of science that goes into it. So when you go in there, you don't know exactly what you're getting based off of a ratio or something. So it helps to have that explanation.
Absolutely.
And the pamphlets you guys provide are super, super helpful in what you guys have to say once you get up to the counter.
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering, though, somebody asked me, they said they were actually like, oh, because I was talking about, I'm going to have Jake in. And I'm like, oh, no, wait, ask him this. So they wanted me to ask you, when you get your license scanned before you go in, does that might that be like contradictory if you're trying to get a firearm? So if you've gone into the dispensaries?
And that's a big question I get too, especially being a veteran, and I'd be happy to answer that here. Now, what I'm about to explain, obviously I'm not a lawyer, so don't take it as legal advice, guys. But basically the way it works out. So
like at what level are they tracking you, in other words? Like where does that information go when they scan your ID?
So I think the first things first, we have to start with the differences between recreational law and medical law. Because essentially what we do is, even though it's this one building, we essentially run two stores out of one building.
Yeah.
Because it's like having two separate licenses. Medical is different because in medical, you do have to sign up. You have to put all your personal information out there, but you also are legally protected by HIPAA.
Okay.
It would be illegal without probable cause to
That's
look.
for medical?
For medical, yeah.
For medical,
so it would be completely illegal for somebody to say, look into my medical records to see if I had a weed card to determine whether I should exercise my Second Amendment right. But the thing is with recreational, it's actually even better in a way, ironically, even though you pay taxes. When we scan your ID, it is similar to one at a bar where it doesn't keep
it's just
any
to make
information.
Sure it's a legitimate ID.
That's it. Yep.
Oh, okay.
You're over 21
Dude,
and it's legit. And what happens is there's an actual law written, good looks on Massachusetts, looking out for people's privacy for once. They put into the regulation that we're not allowed as a company to keep any information.
So the guy scanning your ID actually works for NETA.
Yes.
Okay, so folks, there you go. So it's not a matter of distributing the information on you arriving there. It's more on because that's what I was thinking. Like, well, here's a little loophole because I've gone in there just to look. I've walked out and not bought anything, but I've been scanned. So I'm thinking, well, geez, because I would love to get, just a small firearm at some point. I do a lot of hiking in remote places. You never know.
You never know what's out there,
that than
man,
nothing, right?
Of course.
And yeah, so I was thinking, well, geez, if they pin me for that and say, oh, you've been buying recreational marijuana, and that's not gonna allow us to be able to give you a license to carry.
Yeah.
Walking out without buying anything happens all the time.
Oh yeah, it happens all the time. And the thing is too, it's it's a huge issue. I mean, in Massachusetts, we have some of the strictest gun laws also in the country.
Well, that's what you know. What I mean, you never know.
You never know,
especially with Massachusetts.
But the one thing that I always rest assured, and the one thing I always say is, I see thousands of people every day. Yeah. I know a lot of people who have guns who also blaze it up every single day.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I mean...
Well, if you can drink, that's the thing. It's like,
that's right.
We're all adults now, people, okay? We know how alcohol works. And it's not drugs and alcohol, too. That's such a silly statement. That's like saying oranges and fruit. It's
It's
literally
substances.
drugs. The sentence is over, and you move on.
Yeah. It's
and what's under drugs, name off all the different types.
Oh, yeah.
There's alcohol. There's
caffeine, nicotine, all of it. But that's so I would say my answer to those people is like, I wouldn't worry.
Yeah,
the best you
because
can.
I do know a lot of people who will avoid going because they think it's going to come up on some type of record. Like they feel like they get put on a list somewhere. You know what I mean?
The almighty list.
The almighty incognito list you don't want to be on.
The man's watching. Big brother will look out.
Yeah, like you're going to just be in court one day. Was it true on the 5th of May that you went to the cannabis store? So anyways,
yeah.
Are you guys open? Like, is it official?
So we are.
Yeah.
We are. We launched recreational early on this week. I want to say shout out to the NETA fam. We did a fantastic job rolling that out.
Yeah.
It was obviously a lot of concerns, COVID, going on.
Yeah.
Governor Charlie Baker
you
putting
guys
in
were
certain
hopping.
regulations.
You guys were the most popular place on the block. I mean, I've never driven by. I swear, and I'm not even making things up. I've never driven by and not seen a line outside.
It's
not once.
Now I will. Yeah, no, it's definitely, especially nowadays too, with the way we're doing things with the 6 feet social distance.
Yeah.
It definitely now does look a little bit bigger. But yes, there is a lot of people who come in on Fridays, Saturdays.
The line goes quick, anyways. But I'm just saying, like, here's the thing: for example, if there was only a couple package stores in the entire state of Massachusetts.
Oh my gosh, could
be
you
miles
imagine?
long.
Oh,
There'd be a mile-long line. There'd
there.
be like carnival rides on your way into the store. You know what I mean?
Got
like,
a guy selling T-shirts in the
back.
back.
Yeah, like hot dogs. Get your hot dogs here. Get your hot dogs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, back scratcher.
You ever been to a concert and they're like selling hot dogs? Like I've been to the House of Blues and like waiting in that really long line to get into the club. There'll be like there'll be people selling like hot dogs and sandwiches and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, talk about entrepreneurship at their best.
Yeah.
I mean, there was one dude.
It's a concert in town. Get the hot dog stand out.
Well, they make a lot of money, and I like to tell people that. So a lot of question.
They gouge you. They go $11 for a dog. You're like, well, I'm fucking hungry. I guess I'll have one.
I guess, yeah. Be like, oh, that sounds like a real good deal, babe. You want a hot dog?
See, the caramelized onions. You're like, oh, fine.
Yeah, no, of course. And then they got the fries, and a lot of the times the bacon cheese fries always get me. I'm like, yeah, whatever they cost, just take my money.
Here,
please.
take my wallet.
Here's my ID.
Here's my phone.
Yeah, but it's one thing that I like to tell people too about like entrepreneurial spirit. So, long story short, I've kind of been going back and forth here, but to bring it back to what you originally said about recreational and like being a part of it. So we went recreational under New England Treatment Access LLC, which is the company I started with.
Yep.
Now, we are still New England Treatment Access, and literally nothing, in a sense, operationally has changed at all. But we do have a new owner. We're owned by a parent company now that's called Parallel. Now, the cool part is it's owned by Bo Wrigley, the guy who started Wrigley Gum.
No kidding.
Yes. He
Sounds
died.
so familiar.
Yeah.
Like chewing gum?
Yeah, like Juicy Fruit.
Oh, okay. Wrigley. Okay, I'm thinking because
Yeah. So Bo Wrigley, really wealthy man. His father started the Wrigley Candy Company back in early 1900s, 1800s. But he decided that this was something that he really was into. He didn't know a lot about it, but he knew that we knew what we were doing. So he took a tour of our Brookline facility and Northampton facility. Got to meet him. That was pretty solid. I was like, hey, chewed your gum plenty of times. You know? But really cool dude. He was more or less just wanting to listen. I've never met somebody of that amount of wealth that just wanted to come in and see.
Most people you'd be fine. Like anybody I meet anybody who I've met who's really involved, no matter what they do, whether, in all regards, it seems like they really take the time to listen to other people.
Of course.
I think that's the big difference between somebody who's really successful and maybe somebody who's not, is that most people who are more really successful put more time and energy and even effort into listening and absorbing information sometimes.
I 100% agree with that. And
that the ego and the pride and the humility, they're humble people usually too.
A lot of them are, and they're really smart, and a lot of them.
I met Aubrey Marcus.
No shit.
Yeah,
really?
in Arizona. Yeah.
How did that happen?
I was in Whole Foods. He lives there. Well, I don't know if he lives there, but he said he has a ranch there. And,
oh wow.
And just like I was just saying, I was like super humble guy. He's like, oh, I was like, you Aubrey Marcus? Because when you see,
of
he's
course.
not like super famous, so I wasn't even sure. I did check like his Instagram.
Yeah,
double
like,
take that.
yeah, of course. You got to do your research.
Yeah, and I'm like, are you sure? So I didn't want to make like sound like an idiot and ask some guy if he was somebody else in public. And he was like, yeah, and like he's just super humble. It was freaking cool.
It's interesting when you meet real people and you have a real conversation. That's not, you're not looking at them through a screen or doing any of that. You're like, oh, you know what, that guy was actually pretty damn cool. Just ran into him at Whole Foods.
Well, you never know. You never know. I know people who've, you know what I mean. We all know people who've accomplished much less and have a much bigger. It might be a lot harder to have a regular conversation with them. They might be very dismissive.
Oh, definitely. And that's something I find myself, just like everybody else, I try to work on at my best.
Yeah.
And just,
we all do. That's such a huge part of it. Being able to communicate with one another. It's huge, man.
Definitely. But the good part was I was a part of launching Recreational. Now there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. That's not my job. I'm more of the retail face, more, just standard operating procedures, compliance, training, for sales, product knowledge, things like that. But what we did was I had to train our staff because we had to basically up our staffing by about 50% to accommodate for the amount of business that we were going to see with opening Recreational. Because it's like 95% of our business is rec and 5 is med.
Right.
To give you kind of a figure.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a big money winner. And so I had to train 75 new employees all in the period of like a month and a half with one other person. Shout out to Big Dave Mosen helping me out in there. But
nice.
He's and that was a huge event. And then having all of a sudden going from this small pot shop in Northampton to all of a sudden you're going to be interviewing with Stephanie Goss from NBC's Nightly News with Lester Holt. And I'm like, what? Tomorrow?
What am I going to wear?
Right. And when I went, it was really cool to see, like, of course, it's cool to be on TV and have your 5 seconds of fame and, oh my God, my grandmother and my mom are going to see me on live TV for weed, but
for like but it's like, it's funny too, because you've been on TV so many times.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
I mean,
you were
from
in
robotics.
I remember that.
Oh, yeah. And all that. And I've been very fortunate, speaking of which, I've been very fortunate of just being at the right place in the right time and just being cool with people,
it's
networking.
It's seizing opportunity, man. It's all about seizing opportunity.
For sure. And the older I get, I definitely realize that a lot more, especially like, I was just talking to Jameson the other day. I DM'd him on Instagram and, because he was posting the pictures of you guys doing the rock climbing and all the crazy guys out getting it, man.
No,
I'm
dude,
like,
they're so big into the rock climbing. I don't go as often as they do, but they not only do it in like CRG at that really awesome gym in Hadley.
Oh, the rock gym.
They crush it there, but they also do like stuff outside.
Yeah, and I mean, I know that Jameson, he's definitely active. He does the jiu-jitsu, all that, and even Alex Photo, talk about another Army vet repping it out there, killing the game. Man.
He just recently got his papers or something.
His DD-214 maybe, his discharge papers.
Yep, his discharge papers.
Yep, I call them my freedom papers.
Yeah. So what does that mean?
So
for those of us who don't know, it's just, so Army stuff's really confusing. Or not Army, but military in general.
Yeah, the military is a whole different world. But basically, what a DD-214 is, it's a government form that is a discharge paper. So DD-214 is just an acronym that helps the administrative part of the Army.
You're officially a civilian again type
Correct.
thing?
Yeah. So basically what happens is say you're up on your contract and you decide that you don't want to re-enlist or you're getting chaptered out for whatever reason. You get orders. So like anytime I went to a new place, so for example, after basic training in tech school, my first place I lived in Korea for a year. So so I waited for like a month picking up cigarette butts because I already graduated and they had nothing to do with me. And then they're like, oh, hey, you got to get your smallpox shot. And I'm like, for what? And they're like, oh, you're going to be living in Korea for the next year. And it's like,
all right. Dude, seriously, I feel like everybody we graduated with who ended up going to the military ended up going to like Korea. By the way, for 8 months. You know what I mean? Like,
so you want to know what's funny?
Why is everybody going to, what was it, Seoul, or you guys had the DMZ?
I mean, it's distributed throughout 4 different areas in Korea. Area 1 is towards the DMZ where Alex Burby, he was stationed up there.
He's in the Army too?
Well, he got out as well. Okay. He's living in Palmer. Gotcha. But he was in Korea. Me, Devin Valdez, John Wondolowski, and myself were all in
Yep.
Korea all at the same time.
No kidding.
Yeah, and actually got to chill with each other while we were over there. So that was
that
pretty
must
cool.
have been nuts, dude.
A lot of crazy nights, bro.
Yeah.
But,
That's what I hear, man. I hear it's hard to go to Korea and not get a little wild. I mean, even
got all
Brian
my-
Waite loves it. Do you know who Brian Waite is?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
He's in the Navy. I was supposed to visit him
Really?
in Japan, and then it was I was supposed to visit him in Japan for the first 10 days of March.
Right before this all went
like
down.
literally right before, and I can't. Me and Jeremy were supposed to go. We backed out. I really didn't want to, and I don't regret it because I think it was the best move. But it was just such a bummer because I was so looking forward to seeing Japan. He loves it. Brian, anytime I've talked to him about it, he can't say enough good things about it. That and Korea, he loves South Korea because he lives right there in Fukuoka.
Fukuoka, yep.
And he's right south of Seoul, kind of. I mean, it's right
that's,
across the pond.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's where I was stationed. My job in the Army was communications, so I worked with radio communications and
fitting.
With the electronics,
electrical engineering background.
Yeah, definitely. But the one thing that was cool was when I went anywhere I went to the Army, I was in a different type of unit. Yeah. So there's all sorts. There's infantry units that are on the ground. There's cavalry, artillery, things like that. In Korea, I was in part of air defense artillery, which is the Patriot missile. Now, essentially what that is say if North Korea was deciding to send nuclear TCBMs to South Korea,
TCBMs?
It's a nuclear missile so when you see the things on the news where it's like North Korea launched a new missile, that's what they are. They're TCBMs. Okay. That's the technology that they got given by the Soviets way back in the day. Now, basically, say if they were going to go and basically try to decimate South Korea, our job would to be sending missiles in the air to hit their missiles so we can protect the airway of Seoul, which is the capital, of course.
Yep.
Now, I was in Area 2, which wasn't as bad as, say, Area 1 towards the DMZ.
Right, towards North Korea.
Yeah, but, I mean, of course, there's still danger of being anywhere. Hear this, Mike. There are more soldiers in the United States Army OCONUS in Korea than we have anywhere in the world.
Kidding.
Yeah, that's more than the entire United States.
Keep North Korea on a leash.
At bay. A lot of Americans don't realize how big South Korea is to our economic market.
Oh my God! Well, Samsung.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and then you could probably keep going. What, Sony? Correct me if I'm wrong, but
yeah, Samsung.
Samsung alone.
Yeah,
and a lot of people, like you said, just to extrapolate on that. How much play just Samsung, if we were to stop there, has on everything, because all your screens are made from Samsung. You know what I mean?
Yeah, dude. You wouldn't be watching us right now.
You probably wouldn't, even whether you're on a Mac or a PC, because that's where they get it.
Exactly. And the thing is, too, that's also the way my platoon sergeant used to describe it to me. He said it's like the Silk Road of it's like our connecting Silk Road to Asia. So our trade exists in the Pacific because we are so friendly with South Korea.
I mean, one of my clients is his company. He works with spyware software engineering.
Yeah,
and he goes to Seoul, not all the time, but more frequently than you could possibly imagine. I mean, for a civilian to be like traveling here and there, he probably goes like, I don't know, once every year.
He's having the time of his life every
time he
goes.
He says sometimes he goes, it's like they can't understand. He always has something to complain about, but I'm sure he has he always says it's awesome over there.
It's always awesome. So like I'm going to tell one story about me in Seoul. So
Please.
The one time I first went to Seoul, so I am fresh in Korea. I'm about maybe a couple months.
This can even go higher too if you want it.
So like I was there for about, I want to say 3 months. I just gotten into my unit, got to know my guys, got to be friendly with the dudes. And one Friday comes along and, my buddy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey man," they used to call me Boston, which was really weird because I always used to tell them like, "Oh no, I'm not from Boston. If you live in Massachusetts,
you're from Boston. You're from Boston."
Yeah. And they'd be like, "Boston,
you wicked kid."
They'd be like, "Oh, you want to go drinking with us?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Where are we going?" Because normally we would go watch a local soccer game and drink there, or go to a restaurant in the local vicinity. And they're like, "Oh no, buddy, we're going to Seoul." And I'm like, "Okay." So
sure.
We get to the train station, which is right outside of our stuff, and they have a bullet train in Korea, which is the most amazing technology. You could go from the south of the peninsula to the DMZ, which is about the size of Indiana,
right?
To get people a figure at home, in 2 hours. So you could get across the whole country in 2 hours.
How many miles is that? That's freaking crazy.
A lot.
Yeah.
I would have to look it up.
How fast is the train going? Like 700?
No,
probably not 700.
No, we're talking like
probably
2, 3.
Yeah, still. In a land vehicle.
In a land vehicle, yeah. And it's totally luxury too. They bring food out to you on a trolley, like it's fantastic. But anyway, get on this train, and the one thing I first recognized was one of my buddies. His name was Adam Janori. He lives in Michigan now, but blonde hair, blue eyed kid. You wouldn't think anything different. Like, oh, just a normal American kid. When we went on that subway for the first time, that was the biggest eye-opening experience for me culturally.
Really?
Not a lot of people looked two ways at me, but basically, like, the whole train cart we were in just went up to my buddy Janor and started, like, feeling his hair. And
what was wrong? Who?
They're not used to blonde hair, blue eyes over there.
Oh.
So, or African-American people over there as well. So, like, my African-American buddies and my blonde hair, blue eyed buddies would literally get, like, assaulted.
I know. It's fun. You know what's funny? Like, people and this is a little current now, but not to ruffle any feathers, but people take for granted how accepted diversity is in this country.
Compared
if you go to
others.
other countries, you only have that kind of person. Japan, just have Japanese people. Probably Korea, just Korean people. You go to Portugal. I've been there a couple of times. Only Portuguese people.
Yeah.
Unless you're visiting, you're Portuguese. You know what I mean? There's no like.
Yeah, there's no
mix of every kind of person. You go to the cafe, you got a Chinese guy behind the counter, you got a black guy behind the counter, you got an Italian guy.
Well, and here's the thing too, like even in the United States military, I've come from the Northeast, which is very underrepresented in the United States military. A lot of people who serve in the Army, at least in my experience, are from the South. The place is very proud to be an American, very prideful, love guns, doing all that, which I'm cool. Trust me, those dudes, you want those dudes on your side.
Yeah.
If you're fighting dudes.
They're freedom fighters, man.
Yeah,
They're
the
all
Patriots,
about
man. But the one thing I noticed was when you were in Korea, none of that shit mattered.
Yeah.
You're American, dude. Like, even Canadians would know when the Americans would walk in. You know what I mean? Like, we'd go into this one bar. It was called Thursdays, and it's an American-themed bar.
Yeah.
They have a bunch of them in Korea.
Okay.
The owner of this bar is actually from Hartford, Connecticut.
No kidding.
Yeah, he was wearing a big old Hartford Whalers shirt.
No
and I'm
kidding.
like, dude, no way.
What's up, guys?
Yeah. I was like, what's up, kids? And I'm like, oh, I'm from Mass. And we had a good conversation about that. But, I met this one dude, Steve, and this was during the World Cup when I was in Korea. So talk about awesome time. I'm a huge soccer fan, played it all throughout high school.
Soccer's exciting in Europe. In Europe.
No,
I've been to Europe. Soccer's exciting in every other country. We're not big fans of it here, like culturally.
No,
but
we're
man,
not.
the people will be out in the streets dancing in the water fountains. You know what I mean?
Dude, it is the best time ever.
I lived in Portugal for the 04 World Cup, and it was nuts.
Oh, dude.
It was partying, and I was a kid. I was like 11, 12 years old, and I was, there's no bedtimes for anybody.
No.
We're just like raging.
Oh, yeah. Why? Because that guy kicked the ball
because
through
we
that net,
want
baby.
Spain to lose or something.
Yeah,
Like,
of course. It's very tribal, too, especially in certain places in England and Ireland.
They start destroying stuff. They riot over it, which I don't think is too cool. But like,
no, but that's part of it. And Korea is very similar. They love their soccer over there. And I remember just like looking around, and we'd walk into the bar, and the funny thing is like, say you walk into the bar, so if you look straight, there's like the main bar area.
Yeah.
And then they have seating areas on both sides. So we walk in, but as soon as you walk in, right on the right, there's a bell, like a ringing bell.
Yeah.
First thing we would do is we'd ring that motherfucker and start chanting USA like we were beating the British, baby. And we would walk in, and we would tear that shit apart, basically, and do what Americans do. And a lot of people don't like us because of that. And in a way,
you ended up being extremely stereotypical at that point. Like, oh, that's expected.
Yep. No, this guy Steve made it very clear. Yeah. Wicked cool. He didn't sound like he was Canadian, but I asked, "Oh, are you an American?" Because when someone speaks English,
you're probably
there's only one of two places that they're coming from, and that's the United States and Canada. Because there are other European people there, but if you go up to them, like there was this really attractive girl at a bar. I remember one time I was like, "Hey, how you doing?" And she looked at me, and all she started speaking was Italian, and I couldn't understand a damn word. I'm like,
gotta go.
My bad. You know what I mean? Yeah, just like that. About face and turn around, man. You know?
Oh man.
But so Korea, great time, but the American solidarity is definitely something I noticed in the military, and that's something I kind of miss. Now, the one thing I did want to touch about on the podcast was as much as I love my military experience, it was weird coming back, man. I'm not going to lie. I felt like I was in a time capsule in 2012, and I came back right at 2016 when things were definitely a bit crazier, with the whether it be politically or just socially or
what was going on in 2016?
I think a lot of it came from the election, honestly. Like, I came back and it was
that's when Trump was elected. That's
yes,
right. Okay, yeah. Dude, that was crazy.
Now, obviously, with my time, politically, Mike, I know about it. It's something I as an American citizen, I feel like you should know how our government works. And, I think that whether it's a useless cause or not, there's a lot of people who died so you could vote. So even if it doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's one thing. I do think the optimistic side of me likes to think that it's becoming more popular, but at the same time, I question that because it's like, are people voting? Like I feel like everybody's got an opinion, but is everybody acting on it?
Well, and that's
you know
a
what I
huge
mean. Like,
thing,
is everybody going out to vote? Even locally, like there's a lot of different levels in which your opinion matters. Yet at the same time, most people are caught up in expressing it more so than expressing it just verbally, more so than expressing it from a bureaucratic standpoint, like actually doing the work to show their opinion.
And for me, it's kind of difficult because as much as I'd want to stay outside of the political spectrum, cannabis is a purely political topic
really
right now. And I've met a lot of people. Like, I've met Alex Morse, who's running for representative of our area against Richie Neal, who Richie Neal's been there for like 25 years, as our selectman as our representative. And whatever way you feel, like you said, everybody has an opinion, and it's like, if you really wanted to make that heard, we are very fortunate to live in a country where no one's going to hold a gun to your head when you're at that voting booth,
right,
making your decision. And whether and there's a lot more that goes into it, but I like to tell people, because people have these opinions, if you do your duty, whatever way you feel, whether that be liberal, conservative, I call myself a radical centrist. I like to be in the middle of things,
Honestly, if you're too far to one side, you've lost your way. I've had this conversation before. You got to find some middle ground because both sides on the ends are crazy.
And they tend to be the most vocal too, Mike.
Unfortunately.
And that's part of it because most of the time, like, I'll give you an example, myself. Right. I like to get up in the morning. Right now I'm drinking an energy drink, but normally I drink a coffee, say hello to my cats, wake up with my girlfriend, the simple stuff, I wake up, go to work, fuel up at the gas station, do my thing. And when I'm going home, I like to go home, watch some TV, have a good time. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of Americans fall into that certain category, no matter where you're from. Routine. Yeah. And some people feel very strongly because of personal activities they do. I feel myself being a little bit stronger on the pro weed side because that's my job. But the one thing I like to look at is...
Well, you really should be, though. Everybody kind of should. If you're not already understanding that weed should be completely illegal, you should revisit that. Do some research. Yeah. There's nothing that has ever shown it not to be something that's safe to be legal. You could talk about, but the kids. It's like alcohol's legal. That's where the argument in my mind kind of always goes. Maybe that's not. Maybe I'm just stupid. But and I'm no professional on any of this stuff. I'm not a scientist. But at the same time, I don't have to be to tell you. Well, alcohol is legal.
Yeah.
So where's the argument going? Because if we're worried about substance, I'll just say again, alcohol's legal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, and I'm not saying that alcohol's bad, but it's definitely more dangerous. It takes a lot less to
kills
steps.
Way more people during the year. And
we could talk about the deaths. We could talk about the way you take it in. I mean, even if you're smoking weed, there's steps to that process. You need the weed. You need something to smoke it out of. You need a lighter.
Yep.
And then the tolerance to even inhale it.
You're
Remember the first time anybody who smoked weed for the first time, which if you smoked weed, you've smoked it for the first time at some point.
Oh, of course.
Right? It wasn't happening.
No,
it's very hard.
Very hard.
It's to the point where most people who take in their THC and CBD, they'll probably eat it now, more likely.
We do see that there's a lot, and flower does make up for a lot of the sales. But edibles are popular.
Well, flowers, nothing beats the flower. No, I'm sure. But like, you got a lot of people who are like, oh, it's recreational now. Everybody has that friend who went to Colorado Story and bought the gummy bears and had the whole bag and then died, had an ego death because he got too high. You know what I mean? Like,
of course.
Because smoking it has just got this stigma, like it's bad.
Of course. And I think a lot of that has to do with like people's attitude towards like nicotine smoking or cigarette smoking and things like that, which that's another argument. But the thing is, Mike, after being in the military, because a lot of it, I think I joined because, you know, I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I knew it would give me structure. I wanted to get out of Munson and Palmer, Mass for a little while and see the world, and I did that. But coming back, it made me, you know, and losing a few people, whether that be from suicide or being killed in action, you know, overseas.
Yeah.
Of
Did
people,
you knew people who were?
I did. A lot of very close friends of mine. Mind you know, myself, I'm very lucky that I got to miss that whole kind of super dangerous portion. But, you know, I had really good buddies. My bunkmate in basic training who ended up going into Special Forces school and becoming a Green Beret died in Afghanistan probably about 2 years ago. Going through a little village, just got whacked. You know, and it's
shot or like an IUD or whatever.
So it's hard to say. They don't it's with Special Forces. They don't put a lot out there because of operational security and things like that. But he was killed in action by by a weapon, you know, a gun, I'm assuming, and killed on impact. So basically, like by the time I got to him, he was, you know, it's too late. You know, because even a medic, if they're already too far gone, wasting your time to try to fix something that's already dead, unfortunately.
Where was this?
Afghanistan. So I'm not sure exactly where, but you know, in Afghanistan. And it's just crazy to think, you know, and it's like all these dudes, like this dude, he would have done anything for me. You know, dude used to sneak me the Reese's Pieces that would get in the MREs because we couldn't have them. And he'd be like, hey, Mo, I got these, you know, let me split them with you. You know, just a great dude from Vero Beach, Florida. Got, you know, very laid back guy. And just hearing about it, you know, I'm like, what is it? What does freedom mean to me? You know, and what does it actually mean to be an American in my lifetime? And I think a big answer to that is my liberty that I have, you know, and the fact that they call it the non-aggression principle. It started in a libertarian mindset, but I like it a lot because it's honestly like if it's not hurting you, you know, and it's not. Yeah, or if it's not hurting anybody else,
like
you know,
you
know, and it's like, for example, I don't care if you drink.
Right.
I like beer myself, guys. If you guys want to have a drink with me, please holler at me. But, you know, the thing is, it's like, I know it's, like you said, it's apples to oranges.
Yeah.
I am educated enough to know that if I drink so much of these and I go ahead and hop in my whip real quick, I could probably kill someone, if not myself. And,
if you drink too much.
Yeah, and you drove. Like, I know that it's something that's super imperative. And,
well, you drink too much, you might not make it to the car. You could die before you get to the car.
Right, and that's the one.
That's an extreme example, but it's hard to meet that same extreme with marijuana. Well, I think we're lucky to live in a time where a lot of people recognize that now.
Of course.
It wasn't, I don't think, as known maybe 10 years ago.
I'll even say 4 years ago, Mike.
Right?
I saw a lot of the change.
Is that how long it's been since NETA's been open?
Since I've been working there, they've been open for 5 years, and I've been there 4.5.
So ever since, then there you go. Since it became medical, and all these people are like, well, there's research coming out. More people are open about smoking. I mean, we're here talking about smoking pot on the internet and that we've done it. And
And 10 years ago,
10 years ago, it'd be that's a little, hey, you know.
Hey, let me tell you, you know, there's a local
legend. I didn't inhale, you know.
I didn't inhale.
I was just with some friends. I see you. I stuck my head out the window.
Yeah. I took a couple puffs. I didn't like it. Bro, bullshit, man. Everybody who smokes a joint loves it.
You know, it happens.
But the thing is, it's and it's I'm glad that we're having the conversation. It's out on the table, and that I can be as open as I am about my lifestyle without feeling any sort of stigma. And part of that's through my hard work and perseverance. You know, I don't own the company. I'm not the boss of the company, but
you've worked your way up. Right? I mean, you're not entry level.
I'm not entry level. I am.
You've been there since the.
I'm what they call an OG up at the NETA spot. But you know, the thing is, it's you know. They say the journey to success is a long and lonely journey, and I could kind of attest to that in a certain way. You know, over these past 4 years, I mean, I see my family a lot. You know, I got to make them a priority. You know, so I visit my grandparents and stuff. But when it comes to like social life, like hanging out with friends or doing activities,
you got to be willing to make sacrifices,
and that's the sacrifices I make. You know, and you know, my time, like you said on your first podcast that you did with Jameson, the one thing that stuck in my mind that he'd spoken to was economize
your time.
That's what it was. Yeah. And so
it's huge.
It's huge. You know, time is money.
And now with this whole quarantine, we got this adult style summer vacation for those of us who haven't been terribly affected. Heart goes out to those people, but those who haven't, I mean, regardless, there's a lot of us there's more. The grand majority of us who are especially unemployed have a lot more time on our hands than we regularly would.
Of course.
And like you said, if you're being economic with your time, you should be kicking ass right now. You know what I mean?
Right now,
you should be doing something.
Yeah, forget about that $1,200 stimulus check. Talk about the stimulus of life that you get with all this time. You know, I was burnt out. I was tired. I needed a nap all the time. I was slugging down mad coffee and energy drinks.
The mental healing that I've had in this time has been just great.
Oh.
I'm at the point where I'm actually ready to go back to work when it's time. You know,
And
you guys recently just started again.
So I've actually been working this whole time since the start of it.
Yeah.
But we did,
kidding.
Unfortunately, because we lost about 85% of our business due to the governor order to shut down. Yeah, it was from I forget what day exactly it was, Mike, but literally the day that the governor was
what's 85% of your business? Is this product or is this employees? Or?
So this is just overall business. So like product being sold out the door, which ultimately funds everything we do, from the grow house to the trim room to the labs that test it to the packaging team that puts it up to the
just the kibosh on all of it.
The inventory team, and then transport, because we got to get it sent to our spot. Like you know, it's a logistical nightmare that we seem to knock out of the park every single week. You know, and that's part of dudes who, you know, when I do interviews, Mike, when somebody comes in and they're like, I want to work in the cannabis industry and I want to go at it, you know, I kind of almost ask about their dedication.
You're hiring people. You're not just training them too.
I have interviewed and have put on employees and stuff like that,
awesome.
Including Nick Flores of Munson Local.
No wonder I never see you. I've been there like 2 or 3 times. I saw Sam Chica.
She's excellent. Excellent. Shout out to Sam Chica and Nick Flores.
Shout out to Sam Chica and Nick Flores. And every time I'm like, oh, I wonder if Jake's gonna be in here. It'll be cool to see him. But this guy's on the 10th floor, man.
There's
making moves.
Yeah, I'm in the back, usually running around pulling my hair out. That's why I have it right now.
Well, it's bold of you, because I still got this freaking bandana. I cannot wait to get a haircut.
I just got this today.
Yeah, I know. I saw the picture. I'm good man.
Mind you, went to Great Clips, middle of Northampton. They have an app where you could check in online.
Okay.
And they open at 10. And I was sitting there and I'm like, you know, I want to get a haircut. I wasn't going to be too disappointed if I went and it was like too hectic, or if they weren't open. I was going to be like, oh, you know, whatever, chuck my losses and kind of continue with my day. But they were open.
Nice.
So I made sure I was the first one on that app.
Nice.
I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to get my haircut.
I might have to do that.
I'm a military guy. I show everywhere up 15 minutes early. So
got the beard rocking, bro. I love the beard. Very jealous.
Freedom.
I couldn't. This is. You can't even probably tell what's on my face. It's probably a week.
You know, Mike, it's one of those things
Without
where
shaving.
Talk about the military, because my facial hair is, I have dark hair, dark features. My hair grows quick. I used to have to shave twice a day in the Army, because my platoon sergeant would come after lunch. We'd get in a formation, and he would take a credit card or a debit card, and he would go against the grain. And if he felt anything, you and your boys were dropping, and it was going to be a bad afternoon.
It's so funny, dude, because when I first met you, I was like, I could have swore you were something more exotic. Come to find out, you're like Italian and Irish.
Yeah.
You got
very
really
simple.
dark skin. You got black hair. You could pull off just about any race. You almost look like you're African American a little.
Yeah. You know, and turns to find out that.
I mean, if you were in the sun for like 10 minutes.
I'd be super dark, bro. It's ridiculous, and that's it's cool to know where you come from, but you know, at the same token, it also shows like how similar we are, because I could easily be mistaken for anything. You know,
well, we're all humans at the end of the day.
And all humans are beautiful, man. We're just one of those beautiful humans.
Exactly.
Here,
it's just the quilt. It's just the quilt.
Cubic quilt. But the thing is, too, it's like when I ask these, you know, interviewees or potential candidates, you know, I'm like, if I were to ask you to stay later for an 8-hour day, would you do it?
Right.
Simple question, right? You know, some people, interviews, they want to put their best foot forward. A lot of people would say, yeah, you know, I definitely would put in the extra time. I would do this, that, and the third. And I'm like, okay, that's great. What if I asked you to stay overnight and work till the next day? You know, that's when it starts to get a little murky, you know.
And then they say, and then you're like, no food. And they're like, yeah. And you're like...
I know, right. How about no Klondike bars for the next week?
Take your shoes off.
Yeah.
No shoes.
No mask.
You have to wear this hat, too.
Yeah. Spin around 3 times, click your heels.
And... Yeah, I want you to learn how to play the yo-yo, too. Yeah. You think you could do that? Just pushing it. And the guy just keeps saying, he's hired.
Yeah.
He's hired.
Well, and the reason why I asked, too, is like, have I ever had to stay overnight? No.
No.
Have a few of our security guys, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, they have. But the thing is, it's like, I have
Yeah,
a
that's
tattoo of a
scary.
weed plant right on my arm that anybody could see.
Yeah.
That's the type of dedication I have to the plant.
Yeah.
If I know that if I have to work a double shift
Yeah.
and possibly not get any sleep, it's because I know that one day there's a patient who's
Right.
suffering from maybe cancer, MS, Huntington's disease, you name this type of medical ailment that you could have.
Yeah.
That joint or that edible or
It's going to make a big difference.
it could change. I know
And
people
that's
where it
and that's
changes their
something
life.
I just I want to touch on a little too, because that's a really profound perspective that I don't think is really upheld in this country, and it's the respect for substance.
Yeah.
Everything you eat and ingest is a form of medicine, and a lot of people don't have that respect for certain substances, and they should. You know what I mean? The experience when you're high from marijuana or drunk from alcohol can be really increased based off of your perspective and why you're doing it, because a lot of people just do it sort of barbarically. It's just sort of gluttonous. Not
definitely.
barbaric, but gluttonous. I think it's just to just be out of
Consume.
desire and consume, and they don't really have any respect for what's happening to their body, how their body's reacting.
Right.
But if you were to ever smoke marijuana or drink alcohol with the intention of maybe creating something or observing the way you think and trying to make it into a positive experience or a productive experience, you'd be surprised how helpful certain substances are. Michael Pollan's a huge leader on a lot of this stuff
yes,
too in the
definitely.
psychedelic industry.
Oh, and I mean,
it won't be
talking about-
long before psilocybin is legal.
Look at Denver,
yeah.
and they're trying to make moves over there, and I think that's another part about when it comes to participating. I remember when I was in high school, I'd always go around and be like, yeah, man, fucking legalize weed. You know what I'm saying? Trying to
Smoke
be.
weed. Remember Extravaganza?
Oh, dude,
what a blast!
And you know what? It's so funny too because Extravaganza seems to go on in my house every single day. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
No, but,
yeah.
but
The
no.
party still continues. It just never stops.
It never stopped. No, but that was another thing too. Now, one thing I learned about Extravaganza. Now, when I first went, my first Extravaganza ever with you guys.
Yeah.
Was in the
That
Hammer-
was with us.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
all went together for the first time,
we
wasn't
did.
it?
Yeah,
oh
we
my
did.
gosh, John
We
Cox,
were-
everybody.
John Cockshot, everybody, the
Yeah.
whole crew.
It was like a paddy wagon.
It
of
was
us.
a paddy wagon of groups, and obviously it's in the Amherst Square.
Oh, what a profound concept! Smoking weed in
public.
What?
Oh, buddy. And the thing is, it's like, what I realized was in 1996, the town of Amherst, Massachusetts, actually decriminalized and legalized medical marijuana in a local ordinance.
Is that like the gray area they were able to
It is.
slip through?
That's how the
Okay, and
UMass
and the
Student
UMass,
Association. Yep.
yeah.
They shout outs to you guys at UMass.
Yeah, seriously, you
Guys
guys
are
made a lot of good memories for a lot of good people.
Sending people to the moon and making the
And
best
back.
bongs. Yeah, ever since, And the thing is, it's when learning that and just the activism, it's like when you want something to happen, like this weed conversation, I'm not anywhere gonna. We stand on the shoulder of giants.
Yeah.
Jack Herrera is a big inspiration of mine, a hemp, activist way back in the 70s, 80s, trying to legalize. The thing with me is like I wanted weed to be so legal, so bad,
Yeah,
that if it took me standing on Beacon Hill
yeah,
in the middle of a fucking tornado,
yeah.
holding a sign that's like free weed for everybody, I would,
That's what you- yeah,
and that's
that's
I feel
awesome.
like that's my patriotic duty, and especially for the veteran community. It's well known in the statistic that 22 veterans commit suicide a day.
Oh my God, the amount of suicide, and that's why I'm really hoping that more people look into it and open their minds to it and kind of understand that there's a lot of research that's yet to be done on internal mechanisms, internal tools, and this is what a lot of those natural hallucinogenics give us, is the ability to help change ourselves without surgery or
invasive
hours
measures,
and,
or,
invasive hours of therapy. It's like it's gonna take something very profound to change somebody's PTSD,
especially when it comes to the type of trauma that not just veterans but general people who suffer from PTSD have. And the thing is with me, becoming in the cannabis industry and kind of having my footing, a lot of people actually know who I am.
You've probably seen great results from it, being somebody who can
definitely,
if you're having
in front
an
of my
episode,
eyes.
you can be like, okay, well, here's something that fixes that issue, instead of some tailored genetic coding of a chemical compound then processed into a pill.
Yeah,
That
it's
like this is called extra sectron zips, like something like with way too many syllables.
yeah, too many Z's and Y's.
Polysyllabic, has a ton of freaking consonants. It's like, is this a computer chip or a medication?
Yeah, right. IBM make this?
Right.
Yeah. And the thing with it is, so like specifically for veterans and being around this community, and a lot of my coworkers who I've worked with have actually become managers at other dispensaries in the state, which is really cool to have.
Yeah,
this
you guys got
network.
some competition over there in East Hampton, don't you?
Yeah, but I know the guy who runs the inventory over there.
Yeah.
Like at this point in the industry, it's so new that you could call it competition if you want to.
Kind of
but we're all in the same team at this point.
It's a small herd.
Everybody's got their target on us, and the more that we as an industry can
Yeah.
stick together, I think it's better off.
Yeah, it's definitely not like an aggressive.
Yeah, I
you know
think
what
a bunch of stoners going to war.
Yeah, right.
Oh man,
Hey
you guys
man,
want
what
to
are
play
you
the
selling?
guitar?
Weed. Oh, cool.
Yeah, so are we.
Yeah,
yeah,
nice. I know the two stores. It's one thing.
Well,
I'm just so happy
there's-
people are more accepting of it.
I tell Mike, and you might not know this, and people who are watching might not know this either. There are over 33 dispensaries in Massachusetts,
Is
both
there
medical
really?
and rec,
I
and
did
a
not know
lot
that.
in Western Mass. There's, we have us in Northampton, and then you said INSA in East Hampton, but there's Rise in Amherst.
Is that INSA?
Yeah,
That is
yep,
Insta.
yep,
That's
yep.
where is Insta there first? Because my uncle's been on the medical marijuana train for a while.
Shortly after we did, like a month, not even a couple weeks. So, so they've been around just almost as long as we have. But we have Patriot Care up in Greenfield. We got Berkshire Roots in Pittsfield, Theory Wellness in Chicopee, along with Mac. Shout out to T Dubs running Mac, excellent trainer T. I see you. And the thing is, it's like, when you meet these veteran groups, so I used to belong, or I still support these two groups. So the first group's called New England Veterans Alliance. There's these two guys. Derek's one of them. He's the guy who kind of started it. They're a nonprofit, and what they do is they just advocate for veterans to use cannabis or to help with access or
to explore
different options.
And
another,
that kind of goes back really quick to just the
definitely.
amount of research that could and is probably now beginning to be done on other substances that might be even more effective than what we know, on top of obviously being more open to THC.
For sure. Now, I hate to be pulling out my phone during the middle of a podcast, but the second group, which to what you said, is a group called C3RN. So those people at home, C3 as in the number 3, RN, look them up on IG.
And who are those guys?
So they are the cannabis research. So they're a research company surrounded around cannabis, and they're the only ones that have a license in Massachusetts and the country to actually do scientific studies on, like with surveys on cannabis and how effective it is for certain specific groups, whether it be racial, age, just different demographics. So this is the page right there. And I just want to read a quick statistic that they recently did.
Send me the link to that. I'll put it in the video description.
I will send it to you.
Yeah, guys, if you want, check out down below. I'll tag this, and you'll probably see it on the screen as well.
Yeah.
If you are somebody who's interested in exploring.
Shared. All right, so that's shared to you right now. So just the one statistic I wanted to read, just because for you veterans out there that may be hesitant on getting your medical card for say various different reasons, Second Amendment, stigma, money-wise. So the statistic is that 86 of veterans reported that cannabis helped them have a better quality of life. 78% of veterans report using cannabis to reduce over-the-counter or prescription medication use. And 39% of veterans report that cannabis is the most effective for chronic pain. Now,
what percent?
38.
That's huge.
Now, mind you, this was a poll done recently within the past couple months in Massachusetts, but that's pretty indicative across the whole country, because I could tell you the American Legion did a study back in 2015 about veterans. They asked them a simple question across all American Legions was, if a veteran needed cannabis, should they have it?
Right.
You want to know what the statistic was?
What?
97% of veterans said yes. So what that means is you may not be for it personally, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, if you know of another veteran is struggling, why wouldn't you want to use every single tool in your toolbox to make them better? You know what I mean? So why aren't we looking at the psilocybin or these different things?
People, especially veterans or anybody who's suffering from some type of traumatic disorder mentally, should definitely have way more options, should be advocated for them to use, other than just like shutting them out.
Yeah, and
I'm personally too, just as a disclaimer, I'm not a big fan of smoking pot. I really don't. I socially, it impairs me a little bit, but I am still not anywhere near somebody who thinks people shouldn't have the option to do it, because I know 100% that it is safe, and I know 100% that it's a very productive thing to experience. There's a lot of times where, like, so I might not do it on a daily basis. I might not like doing it around certain people.
Yeah.
But everybody's psychology is different. But what I do get out of it, when I do, is what seems like an infinite stream of ideas. Sometimes it definitely is a great way to, like you said, distract you, or at least redirect your thought patterns into something else for a temporary period of time. And just, even though, it may sound at first like it's a quick fix, but really what you're doing for your own mental health is you're turning off a part of your brain when you get to redirect your thought. And that part of your brain that might be overworking, overstressed, it could be causing anxiety, depression.
The amygdala.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So if you can find ways to turn that off for even just a couple hours, you'd be surprised how much long-term benefits you'd get from that.
Yeah, I tell people too, you know, I call myself the human guinea pig, because I smoke a lot. I smoke on a daily basis. I do marijuana concentrate.
You probably can with, like, obviously we all know it's not bad to smoke it frequently as much as it is to drink frequently. You know what I mean?
And a lot of it has to do, I tell people, there's a lot of personal responsibility that comes involved. You know, if I have something going on, Mike, like if I gotta go and open up the store, and like we got 1,000 orders behind that people are picking up in the next half hour. I cannot
become a responsible human, and you do what you got to do.
I couldn't afford to do it and then go to work. And some people can, and I know people
who can. And that's what I was going to say. There's
great.
Plenty of people I know who are probably more productive than I am, and they're always smoking pot, which is crazy. But this is the world we live in, and everybody's affected a little differently.
And you know, and I say that, as I said, when it comes to the sacrifice of it all, I have the freedom to not have to worry about being drug tested.
Yeah.
But with that freedom comes a lot of work, a lot of sleepless nights. You know, I've woken up in the middle of the night because I thought I told someone the wrong, like the wrong thing.
Yeah,
and,
well, you're probably in like somewhat of an administrative position. There's a lot of responsibility.
A lot of responsibility, and the thing is
you may get anxious. You know, it's like, like you said, did I leave the oven on?
Yeah,
like
right,
with everything.
Yeah, exactly. And then you start doing that every
day.
aspect. Yeah, part of that might be smoking weed, a little short-term memory. But the thing is, it's you know, that's the type of employees I like to hire, and you know, and the thing is the people that work at that company, they're all about it.
Yeah.
You know, whether they're about NETA or whether they're about like corporate jobs
they
or whatever.
Probably deeply believe that they're doing something right, doing something good for people, because I mean, obviously getting it out there. And
oh yeah, people want to make a change so bad, and I hate to talk smack, because I say a lot of stuff on social media in general that's really stupid. But the thing is that, you know, I see so many people who, I know them personally, like really smart people, engaging people, have plenty of potential. They sit there and they're like, you know, oh man, you know, I really wish like I didn't have to go to this job, you know, and I really wish that, you know, I wasn't slaving away to this other person or to whatever. And the thing really about it is I used to work at, you know, I worked at Pathfinder for a while, which I love.
Yeah, it must have been really cool.
It was really great, really
working
good.
With Guy.
Oh, dude.
Guy
and Frank, you're the man.
Yeah, Guy Nizio, Frank. Oh, man, I ran into Guy Nizio a couple weeks ago at Whole Foods.
Oh, dude, honestly,
I saw him behind the mask. I'm like, guys.
I honestly loved him so much more when I actually worked alongside with him, and like it made me appreciate like all the shit I gave to him over the past the 4 years of high school.
Well, that's one thing I was lucky to recognize immediately. I'm like, these teachers got to put up with all of us.
Yo,
and it's like
Pathfinder was a crazy time.
Outnumbered every single instance. I mean, imagine how I was always thinking, how nervous would I be if I had to keep this whole group of kids on cool, and there's like 16 of us. I mean, it's a pop in school.
It was a pop in school, and mind you, a lot of the towns that are in the district are small, but when you pile all those towns together, the number gets quite big, you know, and I loved it there, you know. Eric Duda, shout out to Mr. Duda. He and yourself, you know, you guys helped me out get that position when I really needed a change in my life. And
me too?
Yeah, you were the one that was like, "Oh, you should hit up Eric Duda because they're looking for this."
Oh, no kidding!
And it was like it was like the first time you had texted since I got back home from the army, and I was like, "How perfect!" Because I was slaving away.
I think I do remember that. I think I remember mentioning you to him because I was like taking carpet out of one of his apartments way back when. And he was like, "Oh yeah, I'll touch base with him."
Yeah, and he reached out to me, and that's what it came into fruition, and I loved it. I appreciated the opportunity. The students that I taught, they actually graduated this year, and even a couple of them hit me up, and they were like, you know, you were even though I wasn't even like, I was a teacher's assistant. I wasn't even a legitimate like full instructor, but I took over the related for Miss Winter, and this kid, he was a really troubled kid and didn't have a great home life. And I remember just keep telling him, I'm like, hey man, I hate to tell you, you know, but life's a roller coaster, and you're a really smart kid, and you got people who are rooting for you, but unless you're willing to get up and, you know, make something out of it and possibly have a ticket to escape that. And he hit me up on Instant Messenger the other day, and he was like, Mr. Moriarty, I just really wanted to say that, you know, you're a really awesome teacher, and nobody ever believed in me but you. And like, when you fear that, and I'm like, you're like, ooh. Yeah. Ooh, my heart, man, you know, and I loved it. And I told him like, hey man, I'm so glad you graduated. He never thought he was going to graduate high school.
No kidding.
You know, and now he's going off to college and doing his thing. And it's like, man, shout outs to you, Anthony. Keep up the good work.
That's awesome.
But, you know, the thing is, it's like, you have to give up a lot and sacrifices. And I was working at Comcast on Boston Road before I worked at NETA as a sales associate.
Between Pathfinder and NETA?
Yeah, no, and kidding. I only worked there for about 3 months, you know, very short period of time. But I hated my life every single fucking day I worked there.
That's rough,
And the thing is...
What did you do at Comcast?
I was a sales associate. So people would come in, and basically it's like you want the triple play? I'm going to sell you a home phone in the 21st century.
You want a home phone? You want to upgrade that package?
Yeah, I'll save you some money.
I noticed you don't have any home phones. It's like, dude, all home phone is for telemarketers. Get out of here.
Bro, I have more technology in my palm than they had going to the moon. Why would I want to land home phone?
Yeah, I know.
And so I hated it. You know, obviously it was a different environment. A lot of my customers were bilingual, and I wasn't, and a lot of my coworkers were. So I already in the sales world was at a disadvantage somewhat. And I left, and because I thought to myself one day, I'm like, oh, because I had an interview at NETA, but I had work that same day. And I was like, well, if I miss this shift, I'm going to lose my job. But
no kidding.
But I said,
if I
don't do this, I'm going to pinch myself the rest of my life. And this is always what I wanted to do. And when I did it, I was interviewed with 20 other people, and only 2 out of the 20 made it, and I was one of them.
Wow.
And my buddy Dave, who was my other coworker who helped me train all those people. Yeah, it was... and that's
by
the thing.
skin of your teeth. But did you lose your job because you went to that interview?
Yes.
Good for you, bro. That's a badass story.
Yeah, I walked right into the office, and the word had gone around that, you know, I just, you know, no call, no show. And I went to this weed store interview, and like, as I told one coworker, and of course, you know, grapevine, you know, telephone, they all tell the manager, and snitches. But the manager comes up to me, and he was like, oh, so you were just not going to tell me? And at that point I was like, Yep. I'm going to go work at a weed store. Peace out. and then so I left, and mind you, it took 5 weeks for me to start that other job. Yeah. So I wasn't collecting unemployment. So like, I was struggling.
Dude, for as long as I've known you too, you've always been such an advocate of marijuana.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
the fact that now you're like running, you know, part of the show out there, it's freaking awesome, dude.
Yeah. And, you know, just to know that, this year, actually, it's a lower end magazine in the cannabis world, but it's called Green Entrepreneur, and they do a lot of business stuff. But I made top 25 Budtenders in the United States this year. So like, yeah.
You get like featured in High Times
in the magazines. Yeah, I've been in a couple of different High Times magazines. No way. And yep. So it's definitely crazy to see like just this small kid.
Do you post any of that on your Instagram?
I have a couple of photos on my Instagram. I actually have videos because I've also been on WGBY and some of the local Boston news networks. But you could Google my name. If you Google Jake Moriarty, NETA, pictures of me show up everywhere. Right, and all the, you know, and Mass Live has done articles where I explain all the products. It's really cool to go from somebody who is just kind of like, I just really like weed and it's just something I kind of do and I feel passionate about, to making it part of my, like, seems to be part of my DNA now and my being, because it's not only what I do for a living to support myself and my family, but it's also something that I could save other people's lives in the same process.
Well, yeah, you're pursuing a passion in your job. Yeah. It's kind of, it's funny because similarly, I have the same story where I kind of, you know, left a pretty consistent job to go do personal training, and it's worked out ever since.
And bro, let me tell you, if y'all didn't see Mike beforehand, when we were in high school, we were probably about the same size I am right now, and this dude has gone so swole.
Dude, I saw a picture of myself from, I think it was, 7th grade.
Yeah. Dude.
Why did anybody let me have that haircut?
I say the same thing about myself.
We're all kind of laughing at it right now. Shout out to everybody who's in that picture. There's quite a few of us, but that is hilarious.
Do you know what picture I still have, Mike?
What's
Speaking
that?
of back in the
What's
day,
that?
remember one day, I forget what grade we were in, but it was me, you, John Cockshaw, Paco,
dude,
and we went
that
down
picture's
to
everywhere. That's a classic picture.
That is
I
a
was
classic
there
picture.
2 days ago down at that
Oh,
beach
were
at
ya?
the trail.
Yeah.
Just
shout
just
out
swimming.
to the trail.
The trail, seriously, that was like a vintage epic
Vintage,
pic,
bro.
We were just hanging out old boy style.
Talk about the good old days. There's not much that get like that, you know. And I was looking at that and just seeing where life has taken every single one of us in that picture alone, you know. And
oh, it's amazing.
It's amazing, you know.
It's awesome, and everybody, for the most part, especially in that picture, is killing it.
Oh yeah, dude. And for example, speaking of one of the people,
Paco's probably
union electrician. I see him.
Electrician. That dude's raking in the bag.
Oh, he's raking in the dough. I've seen him.
Shout out to Paco.
Shout out to Paco, my man. I seen him like, you know, a couple times when he walked into the store and I happened to be walking by and just small talking. Yeah, dude, he's killing the game. He's doing his electrical thing, you know.
He was my workout buddy for like years.
I mean, he
before
was
I went
always
into the
kind of active. Like, I think a lot of people didn't give him credit.
He had his ups and downs.
He had his downs, but I think, like, dude, getting it. You know, he's got motivation. And Devin Valdez is still in the Army, dude. He's an NCO. He's a sergeant. He's like running shit.
Yeah, I actually play Xbox with him sometimes.
He's huge, bro. Like, and the funny thing is when, because we all kind of joined the Army around the same time. So like me, John Wando, Alex Burby, Devin Valdez, we all kind of joined around the same time, and that was kind of like our plan while we were partying our ass off after we graduated. And because you know that's what you do. But then, and I always thought to myself, and we always kind of had a bet between ourselves, like who would stay in the Army the longest.
Oh no!
I did not think it would be you, Dev, but you won.
Wow!
Bro. Shout outs to you.
Is
man,
he the longest out of all three? John's not in it either.
No.
No
John's living in, so he moved, he got out and he lived in, I believe he lived in Belchertown for a little while. We had a little bit of a falling out.
Yeah.
And then we're cool now, you know, things are, shit's under the rug. But
times change, people change.
Dude, we're all adults. I do dumb shit.
Yeah.
But,
well, like you said, there's sacrifice in lifestyle. If you want to get shit done, sometimes it means going home early.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
that's what it means. And, yeah, now he
I
lives
should say leaving the party early. Going home early could apply to work.
Yeah,
sometimes it means staying home.
Staying home, and you know, like I tell people, you know, your dreams seem really easy when you're at a bar stool, half in the bag, and you're talking about what you're doing, but then it's like, what are you actually?
Liquid courage, and I can't stand that feeling. When I get drunk, I'm like, oh, I'm so pumped about everything that I'm doing and everything that I'm gonna do, but I don't like it when I start getting pumped about things I'm gonna do because I psych myself out.
I do too.
And then I might not even do them. You know what I mean? Because I've already felt the euphoric payoff of doing them by being drunk or something. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's an artificial feeling.
Yeah, it's not real.
Yeah,
it's not real.
And I tell him, and I'm like, and back to what I said, I'm like, if you hate your job or, you know, you don't like going to work or you're doing whatever, my only advice I would tell you is, you don't know if you're going to live till tomorrow.
Yeah.
Find something you like. And here's the thing. If you don't like your boss, let me tell you, if you work 40 hours a week for an asshole and you hate it, I will guarantee, even if you work 100 hours a week for yourself, you're going to love that shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing. Yeah, you may have to work harder, but the things you are doing are directly helping you as a result. You know what I mean?
You got such a great story, man. Anybody who's in a position like he's describing, find a way out, even if that means risking it. If that means taking a leap. Jake took a leap, and man, he snagged that branch, and he's on top of the tree now. So
yeah, well, and it's funny to think that, you know, I'm still young. I'm 26. You know,
that's what I'm saying, that's the best part. See, time, you're wealthy because you have time, and time is the most valuable thing.
And I look at people, and I'm a very lucky person to be doing this because I work with a gentleman. His name's Dave, and he's about 67, I want to say, and he has loved weed probably just as much as I had his whole life. So we're talking about a lifetime of him loving something and having to hide it in his entire life because of the job that he had and his family
I know
and the
a lot
neighborhood.
Of people like that. I won't mention, but that's just
and I'm only mentioning him, guys, only because he's quite open about it. He works in the industry, you know, but we have that freedom now, you know. And the thing is it's very easy, even though I knew what it was like for it to be illegal and doing all that. It's very easy for me to be like, oh yeah, it's so easy for me. This dude has been struggling for 40 years, you know, just to smoke a joint.
That's got to be the next. That's definitely got to be the next step. Yeah, no kidding. Because I mean, the fact that they limit people's ability to consume or you know, partake in having some marijuana,
right?
But there's no regulation or regard for them doing
anything
alcohol
else.
Or I mean, you can't even track doing cocaine or heroin. I mean, it's
well,
out
the
of your
thing
system.
is if
you
get off on a Friday and you're not getting tested till Monday, most hard drugs are out of your system in 28 to 48 hours, or 24 to 48 hours, and cannabis. That's a big month, baby.
That's a big month, and it's for the most mild thing you could get. Off
I know.
Well, that's actually another thing from an economic standpoint. What I'm really happy about the industry doing so well is because obviously we've all been in that situation where we've had to get weed from.
Oh yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
Who? You know what I mean? But the point is, the worst part about any substance is how you have to get it.
Of course.
You know what I mean? You have to essentially tap into the black market if you wanted marijuana 10 years ago.
Yeah, and
now there's a safe place with professionals where you can go, where you know what you're getting because it's grown professionally, probably by people who have done a lot of scientific research.
So a lot of our cultivators and our extraction technicians are the ones who create the dabs and the shatter and the wax. Those guys, they all have degrees.
Yeah,
like they at least have a bachelor's in plant science or something. A lot of them are UMass, MIT graduates,
and then the experience behind that, and then so you go there to a respectable place with kind people who know what they're doing, versus that stranger in the alleyway who could offer you anything, and it's on the table. It's like, oh yeah, you like weed? What about ecstasy or something you probably shouldn't be taking? And guess what they care about? Just your money. They don't care
profit.
how old you are.
So
they don't care about who you are.
ID.
They don't check your ID. You know what I mean? It's like people are all concerned about how you're going to regulate it. It's like just like anything else we regulate. Just ask for the ID. If they're not of age, then no. Go away.
Simple question.
Go home.
Wait till you're old enough.
Yeah.
And the thing is too, and I'm so happy you brought this up because you do have such a really good understanding about it, and I wish more people were like that.
They're getting there. I'm pretty optimistic about it. Most people are not like I don't know many people who are
especially
opposed
around
to it.
here in most legal states.
And like I said, the argument's really hard for those people because if they're like, oh, marijuana is very bad and dangerous.
Oh yeah.
It's
well,
like,
and
how? And
well,
then
and there's a lot of organizations like that wake up every single day, Mike, to try to get me and our company shut down. And I've worked with these people on a lot of initiatives actually because I'm a member of my community. I want to see my community safe. And that's another reason when you give your money to anyone, regardless if it's a drug deal or if it's you're buying a soda at the local Pride or if you're doing something like that, when you commit the act of commerce, whatever your money is supporting, it goes to that overall organization. So for example, situation A, I meet Johnny smoking
hammer sticks
over in the corner behind Kmart and get a half ounce off of him. That money's going to go to him, probably the guy he re-ups from, and then probably somewhere a couple steps down the line, the cartel.
Yeah.
Who chop people's heads off.
Yeah,
or it could be just some dude who's trying to make money. But one thing is cool. You want to support by all means. I know a lot of people that are still on the black market. If that's your guy, please don't let me stop you. I'm not trying to step on any toes here.
Let's not forget, people, marijuana grows out of the ground. You don't need
need anything real special.
A Breaking Bad basement with tons of beakers and
and most people, if you live in the state of Massachusetts, folks, and you're over the age of 21, you could grow up to 6 plants in your house, and if you have 2 adults, it could be up to 12. So
that too.
So you have home growing, so that's another big part. If you could save money, do that. But the thing is, and then situation B, you come to, doesn't have to be my dispensary, but a dispensary in Massachusetts. You get an eighth of flower, right? Yeah. Our eighths are quality. We sell them for a little bit more than the black market. You charge $50 for an eighth, and with the state taxes
but
at 20%.
The quality is definitely better too, usually.
Dude, I mean, I could smoke one joint of our stuff and then smoke 3 of the other.
I'm not bad mouthing it, but it's very high quality. I've tried it. I've sat there like, what am I? Who am I?
You hear my hair growing,
Yeah.
And, like, the thing is, it's so you give to our organization, right? You pay, so $10 out of that 60 goes to the state of Massachusetts, which that goes to roads, schools, and drug prevention programs. So literally helping the community out and children in that sense.
Huge. It's probably been a huge stimulus
to the local economy,
and the local government and stuff like that.
I could say
what's the tax on it?
So it's 20%, but here's how it breaks down: 17% of that 20 goes to the state, and 3% goes to the local municipality of Northampton.
Oh, no kidding.
So because of our local tax that we have on cannabis, the meal tax in Northampton has gone down by over 10%. So meaning the taxes that most restaurants have to pay to stay open got reduced because we were pulling in all the money we were. So we're actually helping other businesses hire more people or get more equipment or, you know, expand on the space that they've been waiting to for so many years. And not only that, we have a big company. We have over 650 employees out of all 3 of our locations that are from Massachusetts. So we are giving 40-hour, hard-paying, full benefit, good jobs at a working pay with room to advance.
Of course, because it's a booming industry.
Literally
really
and
is.
figuratively, it grows out of the ground. You know,
seems like it's. I mean, it's very popular. I've never heard anything bad about any of the dispensaries that I. You know.
And here's the thing: you pay here, folks. You're paying $30 an eighth probably on the street for decent stuff. Maybe less,
like
maybe
what it
more.
would be at street value.
At street value, right?
An eighth of an, and that's an eighth of a. We're talking
eighth of an ounce. So that's 3.5 grams.
Yeah.
That on the streets probably 30 to 35. It's probably okay quality depending on where you get it from. Massachusetts has a lot of good home growers, so that accounts for the quality.
The gram lingo is like a language only
metric
people,
system. American.
Well,
what?
Like only people though who deal with like very like gold or weed.
Yeah. People ask me all the time. They're like, "Oh, do you work at a pawn shop?" I'm like, no. The weed store. But the thing is if you pay 30, let's just say 30 to make it an even number.
Yeah.
You're paying $20 more for an eighth, but yet from the growers to the security to our administrative to our HR to our retail, we are literally putting food into over 650 people's mouths. And
I like that you bring that up. I think that's a point that does not get mentioned enough with businesses. People bash big business all the time, but you have to realize that large companies also employ a large amount of people. All right. I mean, there's a lot of terrible things you could say about a lot of very rich people, but think about how many people Amazon employs. Think about how many Amazon passively employs through their products, through just just their logistics companies and stuff like distributing products.
And it's. I could understand because I have been a worker and I come from a very working class community.
Yeah.
I get the kind of resentment towards like the man or like the boss. And there's a lot of people out there, like you said, that are clearly pieces of shit and they don't do anything. But here's the thing. At my place where I work, it's so unique that like, for one, I couldn't see myself doing anything else.
Well, it sounds like the company you work for puts a lot of money back into itself.
It does.
There's not a overwhelming pool of it just sort of gathering at the top, because that's what a lot of companies, I mean, even companies I've worked for, it was very obvious that HR and headquarters made all the money, where
of course
everybody else who worked for the company was sort of
making chump change.
Not the chump change, but it was like they could have done better, you know what I mean? It was
of course,
and not to sound ungrateful, but it was very obvious.
And the thing with us too is like, you know, not only are we giving people a purpose in coming to work and collecting a paycheck or doing all that and giving back to the community, part of it is that, you know, you're changing the quality of other people's lives. And here's the thing, in a town like, that's why I hope it comes out towards like this area a little bit more, or towards our hometown, Palmer and Munson area, because here's the thing, we have these mill towns in Western Mass. Western Mass is probably going to be the best hub for weed in the next 10 years, just calling it now.
I bet.
Because of
we're
so
very
many.
liberal.
We're very progressive in that fact, which, and don't get me wrong, I live, you know, Hamden County is a bit more conservative than where I live in Hampshire County. And as I said, radical centrist, I am too liberal for the conservatives and I am too conservative for the liberals.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, but
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I feel that.
And the thing is, it's with all the mill towns in Western Massachusetts that were booming during the Industrial Revolution that are shut down, you know, unless you work at Dunkin' Donuts in Munson, you're working outside of town, you know what I mean, doing something else. And the thing is you could employ so many people. Yeah. And it doesn't have to be, hear me out, for all you entrepreneurs out there, I'm going to throw you a little bone here in case you guys want to make some fast cash.
Some Skrilla.
To some Skrilla. To make money in cannabis, like to do what I do every day, to sell the actual plant product, you need to have capital.
Yeah.
And a lot.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's honestly, I think, the foundation of any investment. I mean, you're not gonna you could invest $1 in the stock market, but seeing a couple percent return over a year, or 10%, even 10% on $1, you only made 10 cents.
yeah, but you
But if
change
put
that to
put
1,000,
10,000, 100,000, $1 million,
it grows. Yeah, and that's the thing too, that it's, you know,
and that's the beauty of free enterprise, because you put $1 million, say, into one of these old textile factories. You buy the property, and then you start distributing either a service or a product from there.
Yeah,
you could double. You could have a lot better revenue than just interest rates or something.
And not to mention the tourism portion of it too.
Yeah.
Like if you go out to Colorado, they have like bud and breakfasts and stuff like that, which is really cool. But the thing is with it is when you're talking, what I was gonna say was essentially like, so you have a town, right? Say Munson, Massachusetts. I'm just going to use that because I know it as the best example. You buy a mill. You all of a sudden you need trimmers, growers, extraction techs, transport drivers, retail staff, managers. Boom.
Jobs
you're hiring half the town of Munson right there.
And a lot of those jobs that they need for even, forget the fact that it's for marijuana. The fact of the matter is, a lot of these jobs, or a lot of these positions they need filled, could be done by people that might have already been doing something in a different industry. You know what I mean?
Literally, it is the one professional industry that exists now that I don't need a college degree to actually see myself having an improved quality of life through my hard work and effort. Which
I don't have a college degree either.
I don't either, and that's hard, and that puts
and
me
it's not
in
that
a lot of boxes.
Yeah, I'm not somebody I know so many people who have benefited greatly from college.
I mean, look at Ryan McQuaid.
Yeah.
You know, and all that.
He's killing it. I got to get him in here.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's huge. But it's like, I think what we're trying to say is that it doesn't have to be for everybody. There are ways to do things. If you're somebody who's wondering, sometimes it's more important to chase after your dreams, especially if you know what you want to do and how to do it.
Oh, and so what I was going to say, the best business advice, if someone were to come up to me, Mike, today, and they said, Jake, I want to get involved in the cannabis industry. Yeah. I don't know where to start. What should I do? My best answer to them would be get into the auxiliary businesses surrounded by cannabis. So here's the thing. More than likely, an average Joe's not going to be able to start this big dispensary or even a small one to be able to compete with these big ones. But there is a way that you can make a lot of money, not have to jump through as many legal hoops, and that's auxiliary businesses. I'm going to give you this. So there's a guy who started a little company where it was just like a rubber cap, right? He made rubber caps. That's what he did in his whole life. Yeah. And one day he started to get into smoking weed and doing all this, and this guy goes, well, I really love vaporizers, but the vapor is harsh on my throat. I wish I could get it through water to cool it down. So you know what this guy did? He 3D printed himself what's called the dab cap. # original dab cap. Look it up. And it's a little adapter. It's literally a rubber piece. Cost me $10.
Right.
I plug it into my bong, flip the vaporizer on the other side, stick it in, take a pull, and you get the most terpy, smooth, most delicious
so it
hit.
Filters out the harshness of it.
It filters out the harshness, and it's
something
literally
so simple.
So simple.
Kind of like your grandpa. It's
dude,
just a little twisted wire.
Yeah, the dude became a millionaire overnight, and the best part about that is since it's not technically a cannabis business.
Did he patent it?
He did.
Okay.
You could send it to all 50 states.
So because it has nothing to do with marijuana. It just has something to do with an apparatus.
It's the accessories. Yeah, so I tell people there's a lot of stuff if you want to think outside the box.
Oh, yeah.
Like, think of it at home. You know, I thought to myself, I'm like, man, I wish this was like rolling joints, right?
Yeah.
I could roll a joint. I'm sure a lot of people could roll the joints and the blunts and do all that. But at one point, I was like, after rolling my 100th joint, I'm like, there's got to be an easier way to roll this joint. So then when I ended up,
fingers are bleeding.
Yeah. And so what happened was I do this really simple method where I take a raw cone, put the filter in my mouth, grind up the weed, literally suck it up like a straw, pack it down. I could roll like 50 joints in like
a straw.
Yeah, I could roll a joint in 2 seconds. Like it's gotten that quick.
That's pretty cool.
Something as simple as that. It's like I wouldn't really know how to formulate that into say a business plan, but that's a start. You know what I mean? It's like how could I make a need easier for the least amount of money to make the most amount of profit? Business, man.
There you have it, folks. Let's wrap this up.
All right,
we're at an hour and a half, bro.
Hey, well, we were getting
I want to thank you so much for coming
thanks for having me on, man. And
guys,
great conversation.
I want you to show Jake some love if you got a second. I'm gonna put his Instagram in the comments below. What's your Instagram?
Jake.Moriarty413, baby.
There you go. Simple as that at IG.com.
Yep.
And this week too, guys, check out. We're gonna be putting out an episode also on Sunday. All right.
Ooh.
So yeah, we got one coming up right after
Shoot.
this with one of my business partners, Anoop. So.
Oh wow,
yeah.
that's gonna be exciting, man.
Yeah,
I'm a huge fan, and
we're gonna have to have you on
off.
again. I hope you guys learned
Please.
something about the marijuana industry. You're a
yeah.
wealth of knowledge with that, man. That was awesome.
Ton of fun. Smoke joints, kids. It's healthy for you.
See ya.